Greetings from AthenaVision Studios, and welcome to our fifth installment of Parthenon Particles. I'm Lieutenant Joseph Fugate, and I'll be your host. Our guest for this episode will be actress recruit Lezlie Sawyer from the Athena's Marine Department. In Star Trek news, production is wrapped on the first season of Paramount Plus's next new franchise series, Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Pictured here is the cast and producers at the first table read. The show went into production late last August on the Star Trek stage at Pinewood Studios in England. The first season will consist of 10 episodes and premiere on Paramount Plus sometime in 2026. A second season is already being written and is expected to go into production by mid-year. For toy collectors, on February 18th, Master Replica announced a deal with Paramount to produce Star Trek toys and collectibles, including action figures and playsets, replica phasers, communicators, and tricorders, and other collectibles inspired by the franchise. Products released will be tied to Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Prodigy, Lower Decks, Picard, Section 31, and the forthcoming Star Trek Starfleet Academy. The action figures are being designed to the same scale as the Playmates 4.5-inch figures and are, quote, designed to sit alongside them. A little while back, I announced that Star Trek would be a part of the inaugural Universal Fan Fest nights at its Hollywood theme park on select nights in April and May. More information is now available about this attraction. Reading directly from the press release, guests will find themselves transported into the year 2403, just as an otherworldly entity wreaks havoc on the ship. As the chaos ensues, guests will venture further into the Enterprise, navigating familiar Star Trek environments from the ship's engineering room to transporter pads to the soul of the Starship Enterprise, the bridge. An original set piece featured in the third and final season of Star Trek Picard. In a desperate quest to stop the perceived danger and restore peace aboard the ship. Laden with special effects, audio-visual effects, multi-sensory activations, and themed performers, this all-original experience will create an unforgettable, awe-inspiring moment that will elevate Star Trek fandom to new levels. Other featured franchises will include Back to the Future and Dungeons and Dragons. Now, let's take a break and I'll share some more Star Trek memes. I have some away mission reports from the Athena crew. Back on Labor Day weekend, several crew members attended the fan-run Dragon Con in Atlanta, where they met up on the Trek track. Fleet Captain Peck and our first officer led a tour of newbies on Friday morning, the places throughout the convention where Star Trek events could be found. On Saturday morning, members marched in the Star Trek section of the parade. Later, under the banner of the Start Pod Trek podcast, Kathy and Ryan presented a panel that discussed the connections between the original series and Strange New Worlds. The convention featured the first ever Subspace Rhapsody Shadowcast and sing-along, with Fleet Captain Peck portraying a K-pop Klingon. Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, and Christina Chong were in attendance and led the audience in giving the Shadowcast a rousing standing ovation. Starfleet Command's oldest living member, SPC Velma Ferris, celebrated her 100th birthday back in October. Her daughter, also an Athena member, Vicky Grieve, hosted a celebration with family, friends, and Athena crew at Events on Main in Dixon, Tennessee. Live music was provided by the Jake Long Band and some great singing by Velma's son, ex James Brown trumpeter Holly Ferris. Still friendly and full of joy, Velma is a valued member of the Athena, having been on board since the unit's commissioning in 2019. On December 20th, members from Nashville met with members from southern Georgia to visit the Museum of Aviation in Warner Robins, Georgia. There, among other exhibits, they saw 85 aircraft, including one similar to the Boeing B 17 heavy bomber flown by Gene Roddenberry during the Second World War. On January 25th, crew members gathered at the home of newly appointed Starbase One Commander Phil Barnes for a viewing party of the new Star Trek movie Section 31. Dressed in black as their mirror universe selves, the crew shared food and Section 31 treats. Upcoming Athena events include the celebration of Chief Miles O'Brien on the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. Members will gather together at the Camino Real Mexican Restaurant in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at 4 p.m. Central Time. For more details, see Fleet Captain Peck's invitation on the Athena's private member-only Facebook page. Our commanding officers also invite everyone to attend the Stellar Fest in Duluth, Georgia, April 4th through the 6th. Kathy and Ryan will be presenting a Star Trek panel. You can also meet Kathy's other lover, Stephen Manley, who portrayed 17-year-old Spock, also known as Ponfar Spock, in the third Star Trek film, The Search for Spock. I'd like to take the time now to welcome three new crew members to the Athena. They include Ron Hall, April Klein, and Carrie Williams. Welcome aboard our fine ship. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, let's get to our guest. Hello, Lezlie Sawyer, and welcome to Parthenon Particles. Thank you for being our guest today. I know it was practically last minute, but we're glad to have you.
Well, I'm very glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I understand that you're an actress.
Yes.
Is there anything mainstream in television or in films that we may have seen you?
Um, yeah, probably. I don't know that too many of the your audience. The biggest part that I've had, I do mostly really background work. But I
Okay,
did have a reoccurring role as part of the house staff on the reboot, not the original Dynasty, because that was way back in the 80s.
I understand.
We're talking about there was a reboot just a few years ago that it was on the CW, and I was
Oh,
part of the
okay.
house
I didn't
staff.
know what it was on.
Yeah, it was on the CW, and I was a maid for the Carringtons. So I was in a lot of episodes with at doing that. It's called being like a like featured background or core background. If you're
Okay.
constantly on a show all the time, there were about eight of us that they used. So yeah, I did. I was heavily involved with that show for I think, oh gosh, about 3 years, something like that.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, yeah, it was really cool actually. I really enjoyed it.
I remember
The
my grandmother watching the original series, that and Falcon's Crest and Dallas back in the 80s.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I got to be actually I think did they reboot it? I think they also rebooted Dallas.
Yes.
And I bumped into Larry Hagman by accident. I felt really
Oh,
bad. I'm like, oops, sorry about that. Again, I was like doing background work and the when they said go, for whatever reason, I did not hear them say cut. And I kept walking and Larry Hagman stopped walking. And then I just walked right into him and I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And he was like, "Oh, that's okay, darling."
that's
So,
fun.
yeah, but I actually really do enjoy doing the background work, especially if you really can be just only a few other people. I don't like it when it's like a cattle call, you've got a ton of people. But since we're on the subject of background work, it's actually fairly recently that I decided that I wanted to become an actress. I started back in 2016. And one of the very first parts that I got, I did have an agent. You actually do, well, I don't know if you'd call it an agent. There, you sign up with casting directors that only deal with people that are going to be doing background work. So
Ah,
I signed up with that agency, and they hired me to be on the movie of Jumanji. And I was really excited. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Well, it turned out to be 350 people. It was ridiculous. It was so many people. And what really amazes me is that with being that many people, whenever we had a break and we could sit down, we sat down at very long tables, like long picnic tables. And it just so happened that another actor named Larry Fleming was right across the table from me, and I really liked his costume. And I told him, I said, wow, I really like what you're wearing. And so we started talking, and one thing sort of led to another. And he talked about how he worked on Star Trek fan films. And I didn't even know there was such a thing. I've been a Star Trek fan my entire life. And
ah,
when he was saying that he did Star Trek fan films, I'm like, I want in. I want in. How do I do this? Tell me, what can I do? What can I do? So he told me, he gave me a name of a director that he worked with named Randy Landers.
okay.
And yeah, and so I contacted Randy, and Randy said he was really sorry that he really couldn't use me at this time. And I was really bummed. I'm like, oh, I mean, I was getting a little bit worried that, maybe, people just only want to work with people they know already, not strangers. But lo and behold, about a week later, Randy Landers contacted me and said, I just had to fire the star of my film. Would you be interested in taking over the reins and being in this film? I know it's really short notice, but I have to film the scenes next weekend. I know
Oh,
it doesn't give you a lot of time to memorize the lines, but if I send you over the script, can you come this weekend for filming? And he did live about 2 hours away from me, which really is not all that bad. And
no.
but I was like floored. I'm like, yes, oh my gosh.
Oh,
I was ecstatic. So I did go, and the rest, as they say, is history. I filmed for him, and then other things started coming along, and
and that was
it
a
was like,
Trek
oh
film?
my. Yes, it's a Star Trek fan film. It was called The Jewels of Axantharis. I think that's how you say it. Maybe
Okay.
I can send you the link to it so that maybe you can put it in the bottom that people could see the movie. But that was the
Yeah.
very first fan film I ever worked on.
Okay.
And
Kathy
Larry
mentioned
Fleming,
that one. I think she said she was involved with that too. She
yes,
called it the Crown
Kathy.
Jewels of Xantharis.
That's it. Yes, Kathy was in that movie. Unfortunately, we were never together. She filmed her scenes on a totally different day, so we didn't
Okay.
see each other for that. But I actually was friends with Kathy at that time. Uh, but it's amazing to me. But Larry Fleming has also done many, many, many fan films. He's been involved in it for a long time. And I just can't believe how, when you think about it, with there being 350 people there, that I just so happened to end up sitting right across from Larry. I just feel
Yeah.
like it was fate, because I have just been having a ball. I absolutely love being a part of all these Star Trek fan films. It's like being a little kid in a candy store. And you could say, oh, well, it's just fan films. You're not like really on, but we are really like family, and
Okay. Yeah.
we really bond, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be a part of. It really is. All of my experiences over the years of being involved in fan films have been really just absolutely amazing. And it afforded me to Neutral Zone Studios, which very recently has moved. They were in Kingsland, Florida. They had such a beautiful set. And it's sort of a long story. I don't need to really go into the whole thing,
It's
but
okay.
Ray Tessie, who owns Neutral Zone Studios, I was there working on another fan film, and I was just telling him my dreams of, oh, do I ever wish I could somehow, some way be the captain of the starship and sit in that center seat. But, I said, I know it's a fantasy. It's just a dream. I know something like that will never happen. Because obviously, for the most part, they want men, to be the captain of the ship.
Oh,
But he actually remembered me saying that. He wrote a script with a friend of his, and the script was supposed to be a man. It really was. But the more he read the script, he really thought, this doesn't really make sense that it's a man because they made the character really a little bit too empathetic and worrying too much about their
oh.
decision making and all this. And he's like, this really seems more like a woman to me. And then he remembered what I had said to him, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to call Lezlie and see if she would be at all interested in this part. I think she would actually be very good for it. And when he called me up and said, would you be interested in being the captain of my first fan film that I want to make? I almost dropped the phone. I was like, you are kidding me. So that movie is called The Looking Glass, and it
Okay.
was the very first movie that Neutral Zones. They have put out more fan films since then, but I did have the honor of being in the very first fan film that they decided to make. So. That was pretty exciting. I was pretty nervous. It showed. I personally think it shows in my performance because yes, when I do watch my performances, I'm like most actors. I cringe. I'm like, oh, it's
Yeah,
such bad acting.
I get that.
But I was definitely very, very nervous. And like I said, I personally think that when you watch the movie, I do have an acting coach, and my acting coach did say I did play the part a little bit too wooden. And I totally agree. I was a little bit too wooden. I was trying to be very stoic and very captain-like, but I needed to kind of put forth a little bit more emotion than what I was doing. It just
Hmm.
came across a little bit too flat, you know.
Okay.
But you know what? It's great. It was wonderful. I'm really grateful for the experience. What amazing, how many people can say that they did get to play the part of a captain of a starship and sit in that center seat, It was really an amazing experience. It really
That's a
was.
great story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We discussed before this, we began here that we have a member, Joseph Peta, and he does fan films, particularly something called Nature's Hunger. And
hmm
I understand that you've been involved with him in producing these films.
Well, acting in them. Not
Acting,
definitely
okay.
not. Yeah, not producing them. Jose pretty much does all of it. He wears all the hats. He's the writer, producer, director, actor. He's
I
he's
believe
sort of
that.
he does it all. But he recently has definitely got people under his wing now to like help him out. Like he's got an editor. He has somebody that actually now is doing music for his movies.
Oh,
He has a special effects person. He's got a prop person. So he definitely has gotten more people involved, to help him out with production.
okay.
But yes, I met Jose. I call him Jose, but yes, he does like to be called Joe. Uh, I believe it was Neutral Zone Studios. I think that is actually where I met him for the first time. Um, and I remember he wanted to know if I'd be at all interested in doing a fan film, being an actor in one of his fan films. And he says, "Yeah, I'm going to need you to be a couple of different people and a couple of different parts, and you're going to have to wear wigs and everything." And I was like, okay. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
I'll never turn down, a fan film of if anybody wants me to be in their fan film. So I was like, yeah, sure. Okay, that sounds interesting. That sounds different. And that ended up being Razor's Edge was the first film
Okay.
that I did with him. And then after that, we did A Fighting Chance. And right now, this past November on Thanksgiving, we released our newest film, which is Bomber Girl. And Bomber Girl, we're in shock. It is really taken off.
Oh, I
It
didn't
has a lot of
realize.
views. We were not expecting all the views that it's gotten. It's actually a 2 hour long feature length film.
Wow, I didn't
Yeah,
realize that. I
yeah,
talked to him just a little about it,
yeah. It takes
but back
place
then
during,
it wasn't a complete, it wasn't a done deal
right.
yet.
Right. He wasn't quite done yet. Yeah, it does. It actually does take place during World War II. And there are some Easter eggs in it. And even Gene Roddenberry, of course, is shown and
Oh,
mentioned in it. So, because, he was a pilot during World War II. So,
yes.
yeah,
Okay,
so
well,
that was a lot of work. It did take us 2 years to complete that movie. It really was an awful lot of work. But hey, we finally got through. Just when I thought we were done, Jose would come up with another scene. Yeah, we got to do this, flush out the character more. And I'm like, oh my God, Jose, we're never going to get done with this movie. You keep on adding more scenes to it.
well, I'm glad it's gotten acclaim.
Yeah, but
That's nice.
I definitely have enjoyed working with him. He has such an incredible imagination. He really, really does, and he makes the filming real. Even though again, it is a lot of work and it's a lot of hours. People don't realize that we have just a weekend to get together to try to knock out a few scenes. I mean, we can't get a whole film done, but we can at least knock out a few scenes. But it might be a few months before we can all get together again to do it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It is really a lot of work. We're there for a long time. Like we might start the day at 9 in the morning and we don't get out of there till like maybe 9 at night, like a 12-hour day.
Oh, well, that sounds like a
So,
real film, like a real Hollywood film.
yeah, it's like we have to get a lot of scenes in. And also another thing that people don't understand is when I work on the professional movies and television, they do many, many, many takes of a scene, okay? Because they want to get different angles. They
Yes.
might even want the actor to maybe say the line a little bit different, that sort of thing. So typically, they get maybe, if they're lucky, out of a 12-hour day, they'll maybe get 6 minutes of footage that they'll be able to use. And that's about it.
Okay.
Um, but we're not afforded that kind of luxury where we can be doing our scenes over and over and over again to really get a really great performance out of the actors. If we say our line right, it's as simple as that. If we say our line correctly, we're on to the next. We got to move on. There is no time at all. It's one and done. And that's unheard of. In the professional industry, you don't do that unless there is something that happens where they're like, "Oh my God, that was incredible. That was good enough." We don't need to do it again. So it's just in a way kind of unfair to try and, say anything like that, because it's like, yeah, we don't have the luxury of being able to do it a whole bunch of times. So,
I understand that you were on Ryan and Kathy's podcast. What was that experience like?
yeah, well, I actually became friends with Kathy. Oh, I want to say I really think it was back in 2016. Um, I was actually seeing a gentleman that she knew and was friends with, and he had a party and she was there and we just we kind of hit it off. I mean, we chit chatted and all that, and then I think I saw her again at another one of his parties, and then we exchanged information and all that, and then it was a little bit later on that I got to meet Buddy. And I'm really, really, I was thrilled that it worked out that I was actually able to go to their wedding. This is another amazing thing that sort of ended up happening to me, was that I, out of the blue, I got a message from someone. You get that on Facebook where you'll just get a message from somebody, and he just said hi and wanted to become friends on Facebook. and I kind of looked at his profile and it looked like I saw some Star Trek stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. He sent me a friend request. So I'm like, all right, I was like, okay. And so we just started chit-chatting and I talked about acting, about how I wanted to be an actress and all this kind of stuff. And I forgot what all we ended up talking about, just a lot of like little chit-chat stuff. And all of a sudden, one day I was looking, how you get stuff in your news feed on Facebook. And I saw a picture of him, like it was like professional, where he was like looked like a Vulcan. And it turned out it was Gary Graham, and I had no idea who Gary Graham was. I didn't watch Alien. Well, I watched a couple of episodes of Alien Nation, but that was such a long time ago. And
Yes.
then I also never watched Enterprise. I tried to watch Enterprise and I just couldn't get into it. So I didn't know who the heck the guy was at all. And it turned out that yeah, I'm all of a sudden I'm in shock. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this guy is really a known Hollywood actor. And he actually asked me, how would you like to be my personal assistant at when I go to conventions? And I was like, what the
Wow.
heck? I'm like,
Oh,
okay. I'm like, okay. So we actually became
yeah.
really, really good friends. And I ended up getting to meet, and hang out with a lot of the other Star Trek celebrities because, where I went to the Star Trek Las Vegas. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, and I went there several times, and then also Treklanda. I was with Gary for Treklanda, and I can't remember. There was another one that I was his personal assistant with that. So that fell in my lap. I mean, I'm not even, trying to become friends with a celebrity, and it's like, okay. And of course, I was devastated. He really wanted me to come help him out when he was working on Axanar um, last year. And boy, I wish I had had a crystal ball. I felt really bad that I turned him down. I really was, busy, and I just said, I really can't break away right now. And he was like, "Oh, that's okay, no worries, And so I don't know, and it's just a couple of months later after that is when he passed away. And I'm like, oh
oh,
my gosh. I still have the message obviously from him saying that he was hoping I could come and help him out. And now I feel horrible about it. No, little did I know, that but you just never know, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But anyway, so Kathy, um, was saying how, she did mention she was going to be getting married and it was going to be at Treklana. And I was there with Gary, helping him out, with being his personal assistant at Treklana. But he was nice enough. I said, listen, my friend is getting married. Can I break away, from the table just for a little bit so I can go to her wedding? And of course,
Oh,
he was very gracious. He was like, yes, go, don't worry about it, just go. And I was like,
great.
thank you, thank you. So I went and I was able to see Kathy and Buddy get married. And I was a beautiful ceremony. It was, a Star Trek ceremony, and it was really cool. And then yeah, Kathy, then when she started the podcast with Buddy, they wanted to know if I would be at all interested, in being on the panel and talk about, being an actress and being in fan films and things like that. And of course, we
Ah,
did talk about the movie that both Kathy and I were in, uh, The Crown Jewels of the Axantharis. Uh, so we talked about that, and um so yeah, it was really great. And then it was really sweet. I think just about maybe a couple of years after that, something like that, they asked me if Joe and I, if we would be on their panel at Dragon Con, which was amazing because, to tell you the truth, Dragon Con means everything to me. I feel like if you can only go to one convention once in your life, you really should have it be Dragon Con. Now, I will admit Dragon Con is not really for everybody because it's about 80,000 people that go to it. Not everybody is a fan of being at those really big conventions where there's a lot of people. But if that doesn't really bother you, it's like Nerdy Gras. We call it Nerdy Gras. It's like one great big family event, and everybody's there having fun, and it's like a great big party and we're all celebrating the geekdom of all, you name it, they've got it there, okay? And yes, definitely Star Trek has a very big presence there. Uh,
Yes.
so
So
when
I've seen.
it was definitely an amazing thing. That was one of my things on my bucket list that I'm like, gosh, I wish so. I would love to be on a panel at DragonCon. That would be so cool. And then, hey, there you go. Kathy and Buddy asked me if I would be on a panel at DragonCon.
Fantastic.
I was like, yeah. So that was awesome. I had a great time.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah, it
Uh, do you have anything upcoming that you can talk about? Any
um
projects?
Well, like I said, for right now, I do have an agent who's waiting in the wings. I have not signed with him yet. I've had a lot of life changes. And I do live in North Carolina now,
Okay.
which makes it a little bit more difficult. I was living in Atlanta before, and so obviously living in Atlanta, there were way more opportunities there than what's in North Carolina. But I'm going to definitely get back on track again once the dust settles. Get back on track with the whole acting thing. I did work on an independent film about 2 years ago, and it just recently became available. It's my understanding, the director told me that it is available on Amazon as well as another app. I think it's called Freebie.
Okay.
The movie is called The Troll Hunter. So there's that. There was another movie I did where I actually have a very big role in that movie. I'm like a detective. It's like a mystery type thing, and it's actually a pretty good movie. The other movie I did several years ago, I only have like a couple of lines in the movie, but it's really very cute. It's a comedy. It's called The E-Listers, Life in the Fast Lane. And that
Okay.
is available on Amazon, I believe. I'm not sure if it's available anywhere else, but I know it's on Amazon. But no, right now I am working on the Star Trek fan films. Uh, Jose is doing right now Planet of the Apes meets Star Trek.
Oh,
So yeah, so I'm going to be the number one. The captain of the starship is actually an ape. The
ah,
ape, of course, looks like one of the apes from Planet of the Apes.
ah.
Um, but I'm going to be the number one officer, and there's going to be some drama because sometimes the first officer might not agree with what Captain Simeon wants to do. So, but we're filming that in April, and I say we're going to be filming in April.
Ah.
So we're getting excited about that one. And
Okay.
so that's pretty much all I've got going on at the moment.
Well, very good then. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all that with you. This has been a fantastic interview. I don't think I have to edit anything. So
Oh,
from beginning to end, you've been a good
oh,
guest, and I appreciate you being part of our program.
oh, well, I really, if it's okay, I really, really would love to just at least share with you how I got involved with Star Trek.
Okay.
Going way, way back. I believe it or not, I remember, even as I was a little girl, I was really little. I remember the commercials for Star Trek. And I thought, gosh, that looks so cool. And my dad, I am daddy's little girl. I really am. I don't have any sisters. I've got two brothers. I am daddy's little girl. My dad, I grew up watching horror and science fiction with my dad. I would sit on his lap and he would watch like Thriller and Twilight Zone and Outer Limits and all this stuff. And I just remembered I just was fascinated by it. I didn't understand what was going on, but I thought it was really cool, you know? And then when I saw this commercial for Star Trek, I'm like, oh, I know my dad is going to flip. He's going to love this. And so I told him about it. And sure enough, when Star Trek really originally came on the air, I sat on his lap and I drove him nuts because I didn't understand what was going on, but I thought it was really cool. the phasers
Okay.
and transporters and the monsters. And I drove him crazy because every 2 seconds I was trying to understand what was happening. And he was like, "Will you be quiet? I will tell you when the show is over. I'll explain to you, but just be quiet right now." So yeah, I mean, I have loved Star Trek ever since it was really originally on television. And I have
Okay.
actually been very fortunate that I actually have met. I've been going to conventions ever since 1975,
Okay.
and I have
Wow, that's
met.
50 years.
Yeah, I'm that old. I um I have met every single person imaginable, all of them. I even kissed Walter Koenig. But that was just not nothing. It was actually on stage. I was dressed up as Batgirl and I was being
Ah,
real, silly, and I caught him
ah.
off guard. Now I don't think you could do that. They would haul you away if you tried to kiss them. But back in those days, back in 19, I think 77, the rules they weren't so strict and stuff. But
Okay.
um but Shatner I've met a bunch of times, and you don't want to talk about a lot of Star Trek. He's just, he's so tired of that. And
Ah,
what's a good thing to talk to him about is horses. He loves horses so much,
I know
and you
that.
can you can really get him to really want to talk to you if you seem to know and have a knowledge of horses. Like I do
Okay.
ride. I wouldn't say I'm an expert rider, but I have ridden, so I could talk to him about that. But yeah, there's only one actor I never got to meet, and that is DeForest Kelley. I never
That's
ever got to
sad.
meet him. I'm bummed that that just never happened. I've met all of them though, like a whole bunch of times, and have been able to talk to them and hang out with them and stuff like that. So I feel very fortunate and very blessed, that I've had some amazing opportunities and uh, just a lot of great memories. It's really incredible. But again, thank you so much for letting me be on your show and giving me this opportunity. And like I said, I just love everything about Star Trek, and I certainly love being able to be involved in the fan films. They really are a lot of fun, and just amazing.
Once more, thank you, Leslie, for joining us on Parthenon Particles. As always, I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for watching our program and being a part of Starfleet Command and the USS Athena. Again, my name is Joseph Fugate, and I'll see you soon in another AthenaVision.